What are the best exercises to target your biceps? I'm going to share with you the best methods for bigger arms, my top picks for exercises, and some sample workouts that you can use immediately at the end of this video. Your biceps here are a pretty simple muscle. They run up along your arm here and they perform this action, elbow flexion, which means anytime you perform this movement, they're going to be working. Whether it's up here or down here, and even up here. So when you want to target your biceps, there are literally millions of exercises that you could be doing, but they're all going to fall into one of two buckets. These buckets will determine which part of your arm you're training. Because technically, these here are your biceps. But we also care about this little guy here, the brachialis, and we can't forget this guy here, the brachioradialis. Because even though people mainly talk about the biceps and triceps when it comes to arms, these other parts make up a humongous portion of the arm and can't be neglected, which is where these two buckets come into play. The first bucket is anytime you're bending the elbow and your palm is facing up. Here, you're going to be working the biceps. You have your basic barbell curl, dumbbell curl, incline curl, and even things like chin-ups or pull-downs will work your biceps to a degree. Now, anytime you're bending the elbow but your palm is facing in or down towards the ground, you're going to be targeting the brachioradialis and the brachialis a little bit more. So that all makes sense, but how do we now go about picking which exercise is best for you? My friends, it is time for us to peel the onion. First layer we have already done. You've decided for yourself whether you want to go palms up or palms down. The next layer is working out where in the range of motion is the exercise hardest. Then we can finally get to the fun stuff, my personal favorite exercises and some actual workouts. So the first question for you is, what's the difference between these two curl exercises here? This dumbbell curl is really easy down here. I can hang out here forever, but it gets really challenging up at this point. Whereas this shallow angle preacher curl is really challenging here at the bottom position, but I can get to here and hang out forever. The same concept applies here. At this start position, this is really challenging, but once I get past it, I can hang out here indefinitely. This is really easy. The only thing that I recommend you do with this information is, apart from picking exercises that feel good to you and that are convenient and easy for you to set up in your own training environment, but it's to pick exercises that challenge your biceps in these different parts of the range of motion. You pick one exercise where it's harder towards that peak contraction, one exercise where it's harder towards more lengthened position, and avoid redundancies where you keep adding more and more and more exercises to an endless list of movements that end up essentially training the exact same thing in the exact same position. Because is there really a huge difference between a standing barbell curl and a standing dumbbell curl? No, it just comes down to convenience, preference, and what you have available. Now you can make the case that an incline curl in this position is significantly different to me being more upright and curling just like this, but to be perfectly honest with you, this change in extra stretch is quite minimal and quite small, not to mention the fact that yes, my bicep is more stretched, but there's no tension here, just like we saw earlier. Who cares if a muscle is more stretched if it's not being challenged in that position? And this exact same concept applies to that brachioradialis and brachialis. So I've got the hammer curl, this is really hard up here, whereas a hammer preacher curl is really hard down here. And this lying curl is pretty much the exact same as me doing it standing upright with dumbbells, except I get to lie down. Which brings us to the bonus layer of this onion, stability. I love pelican curls, but there's a lot of technical skill involved and they're very challenging. But doing a cable curl, there's pretty much the exact same thing with more stability and less technical demand. And if instead of doing the typical cable curl or Bayesian curl that most people do with the cable set up quite low, if we took that same cable and set it up quite high, we can get a closer copy of that pelican curl. We're able to get this monstrous stretch through our shoulders and chest at the same time as we're training our biceps in their more lengthened position. Dr. Mike Israetel really likes his dumbbell laid back curl variation, which is a cool exercise. I'm not as big a fan because you're relying somewhat on your shoulders to help stabilize you in this position whilst you're doing the curl exercise. It's not wrong or bad, but I prefer to lay back on a preacher bench just like this to get the exact same effect with more stability at the elbow. Before we get to a couple of actual workouts, I'm going to leave you with a few different exercises that I really enjoy when it comes to hitting the biceps and the brachialis and the brachioradialis. You can pick one or two from each bucket and just follow them blindly. But one question that does come up from time to time is, can you bias each individual head of the short head and the long head of the biceps to get that split down the middle? And to be perfectly honest with you, there is probably a way to be biasing these in terms of how you position your arm closer or further away from your body, but the difference would be so infinitesimally small that you would never notice a significant difference between your short head or your long head being hit further and growing more as a result. So I'm going to sound a bit like a bro here, but bro, seriously, just get bigger arms and you'll be okay. You can have differences in insertions and how your biceps look overall as they grow, but that's more to do with genetics and where the muscles actually attach, as opposed to picking specific exercise to target one head over the other. The only other tiny detail that you might want to think about when it comes to picking different exercises for your body is not just about does it feel good and is it easy to set up, but also trying to train your biceps when your arm is in different positions. So not just here by your sides or here in front of you on a preacher bench or even here on an incline curl, but getting way back behind your body here, bring your arm out to the side here as well, or this 45-degree scapular plane as well. This isn't as much about max size or max biceps gains, but more about shoulder health or mobility, because the biceps cross through the shoulder joint and attach to the shoulder blade back there, and they play a big role in stabilizing and moving this shoulder joint as well. I'm a big believer in the idea of having mastery and strength in as many different varied positions as possible. And if you never go somewhere such as maybe up here or behind your body when you're training your biceps, you're never going to build strength and capacity there. Okay, let's take a look at sample workout number 1. This is a pretty simple one. We're going to have one exercise here for the biceps for the peak contraction, one exercise for the biceps for more of that lengthened position, and one exercise down here for the brachialis, brachioradialis. We are also adding in some partials here in the bottom half of the Bayesian curl and some partials here for a little bit of fun with a hammer curl, but you can absolutely do without those 2 extra partial exercises if you wanted to. This workout and hundreds more are available in my app, along with over 70 complete programs from myself and other experts in powerlifting, calisthenics, running, and more. You can even build and track your own programs. I'll leave a link in the description below for you if you want to try it out. But this one here is a dumbbell-only workout that is perfect for when you're short on time. So we're going to do it together. First, we're going to start down here in a spider curl. So this exercise is hardest at this point here, and it gets a lot easier down the bottom. You want to pick a weight that has you challenged at about 6 to 8 rep max and get a really strong hard contraction right up here in this peak. One thing I didn't mention before is in this fully shortened position with the arm in front of my body, this is a very weak position for the biceps. So you'll find yourself failing quite early. So again, 6 to 8 reps, 1 to 2 second pause, around there, and that's it. And then go straight into the layback incline curl. So using the same weights, and even though I hit close to failure, I had a couple of reps in the tank still, I failed at the task of the exercise, but my biceps still have more to give. So now I'm able to get this monstrous stretch on the biceps, load them up down there in that stretch. But up here is easy. I can hang out here for a while. Down here, super hard. Oh, get as many as you can. 5, 6 would be a good target. And then we're still not done. I'm gonna come around to the spider curl one more time. And because I've hit those 2 failure points, I can only get about there, or the halfway mark. 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm meant to do 5, but I'm talking to you guys, so give me a break. And then last bit to finish this off, standing dumbbell curl, working that mid-range. Add a little bit of a cheat if you need it. Oh God. And that is set 1. My God, that hurts. So that's it there, just took about 2 minutes, and that is plenty for your biceps. If you want, you can do another round, or you can switch up to something more for the brachialis and that brachioradialis, but truth be told, what we just did is plenty for them as well. It's gonna thrash them. You don't need a lot of exercise, you don't need really fancy, you don't need really complicated, you just need a really hard effort. And that's one of my favorite ways to really shorten the time demand, but maximize stimulus, so I hope you enjoy that.